So the very first question that would be coming to your mind would be, what will you learn from the course? So I can tell you that this is a 3-in-1 course. So you'd be understanding about what is Docker, then we'll see how MySQL databases work in Docker, and then using the same knowledge that we have gained, we'll see how MySQL databases work in Docker on AWS Cloud. So I can definitely promise that this will have lots of concepts and loads of demos to go through. So just to begin with, we'll see what is Docker, what are containers, because everything revolves around containers. So we need to have good understanding of containers. Then we compare containers with virtual machines, because we have good understanding of virtual machines, but we need to see how do they differ from containers. Then we look at the benefits of Docker and some key and interesting facts about Docker, which were actually new for me as well whilst I was working on this course. Then we actually move on to the architecture of Docker. This is my personal understanding, and from my experience, I can say if you are learning a new technology, guys, please always understand the architecture. Please understand the nitty-gritties involved in that technology. So we'll look at the installation of Docker on macOS. Then we'll also talk, I'll show you the kind of a magic how Docker works on Mac, because Docker was always meant for Linux operating systems, but how you can actually run Docker on Mac. So it still utilizes the Linux operating system. It's a kind of a magic. We'll take a look. Then as I said, architecture is always important. So we'll look at Docker architecture. It's a kind of a deep dive. We'll look at what is Docker daemon client. What is Docker daemon? What is Docker client? What are Docker registries? What is the Docker engine? So very, very basic things which we need to know about Docker. We'll take a look. Questions will be answered for you. Then we'll look at in-depth demos of basic Docker commands. You need to understand how Docker pull, how Docker push, Docker images, Docker ps, Docker ps-a. Loads of commands are there. We'll do a practical demo of all these commands. Then let's say you have got good understanding of architecture. Now you have got good understanding of basic Docker commands. We'll move and dive into the MySQL world. So we'll look at how MySQL works with Docker. So we'll start with what is MySQL Community Edition. Then we move on to installation of official images, because there are multiple official images present. Sometimes students do get confused. You have official image from Docker, then you have also official image from Oracle. So we'll try and download, and we'll try and create containers out of these images and see what are the differences. Then we talk about tags, very important concept, how you can install multiple versions of MySQL. Then I'll show you how you can connect to MySQL container. It's okay, you've created your container, but it's of no use unless you make a connection to it. Then we talk about the industry standard concept of creating containers, which is a Docker compose command, and how to. Then we have a demo, and a lot of these are all demos actually. How you create a custom image. So you'll see that during the course we'll be pulling a lot of images which are present in the Docker Hub. But then, what if you have to create your own custom image? We'll take a look into that as well. Now, Docker was never meant for databases, but there is a concept of data persistence in Docker which makes it really popular and really the best use case for databases. So we shall take a look into data persistence, how you can get data persistence in Docker. Then again, to understand data persistence in Docker, we'll take a look at the volumes, how you can create a volume, and we'll show a demo for that. And no database is complete without a talk about the backup and recovery part of it. So we'll try and cover that as well as backup recovery of MySQL databases in Docker. Cool. So by now you'll feel really confident, and you are feeling confident, and you can jump into the cloud, or I can say you can move on to the cloud. So again, we'll start from the basics. We'll start from introduction to Docker in AWS. Now you have to run your Docker and MySQL databases in AWS. Now let's say you don't have, or you have some basic understanding, because a lot of these things that we'll be working in the course would be from architecture standpoint. So I'll try and go through AWS slightly, not too much in detail, but I'll try to touch the main points, like what is a VPC, what is a virtual private cloud, how can you create your own VPC, because all the components that we create will be creating in our VPC. Then we talk about important concepts like what is a security group, how do you create security group for a web server, for a DB server. Then I'll show you how you can create your own EC2 instance. So we'll have an EC2 instance for a web server, and we'll have an EC2 instance for the database server. And I'll show you the demos, like once you have created your EC2 instances, you should be able to SSH to your web server, and your database server always stays in the private subnet. So nobody from outside world can actually access your database server. So I'll show you how you can log in from your web server or do an SSH to your database server. Then we will actually install a Docker on EC2 in AWS Cloud. How you can do that, I'll show you a demo on that. Then I'll show you how you can configure MySQL in Docker on AWS, which is the talk of this module. Then, very interesting demo wherein we will install Apache web server on the web server or the EC2 machine that we created in the public subnet, and we'll have the database server which will have Docker installed and a MySQL container running on Docker in EC2 machine, which is our database server. And then I'll show you a PHP to MySQL connectivity, wherein what we'll do is we'll write a piece of code and we'll try and make connection to the MySQL database, and then we'll also pull or extract some data and display it onto the web page. And I'll show you how this whole mechanism works. So guys, does that sound interesting to you? I believe it does. So I shall look forward to see you in the course. Happy learning.